I loved Kelly's story. And I want to tell you another small story, a no big deal story. It happened the other night at town meeting. There we were, voting on all these motions in the warrant that had to do with transferring funds from one place to another. And then a motion came up. It was a motion to change the name of the Board of Selectmen to Select Board, and to refer to the folks who were serving as Select Board members. Now, it was the Board of Selectmen that had brought this up, but they decided to not recommend it to the town. And they ended up, before this meeting, they ended up voting amongst themselves to postpone it indefinitely. And when the chair, the one woman on this board who is currently serving, announced this, there was an outcry among a few of us in the audience. You know, there were some in the auditorium that liked the idea of the traditional male-centered language just fine. And there were others there who thought it was time to strip our language of the gender of leadership. We've done this before. We've changed a variety of titles, you may have noticed. It's mail carrier, it's wait staff in a restaurant, it's flight attendant, it's sales clerk. In fact, the statewide association of town boards changed its name this year to the Massachusetts Select Board Association. And then a member of the finance committee, a lovely white-haired elder woman, asked to speak, and she offered a fierce and eloquent call to support this proposal. She made it a plea on behalf of not only women, but of all daughters and granddaughters and those who love them. And when she was done, the room erupted into applause. Now, there was one board member who suggested that maybe there was such a thing as too much political correctness. Male-centered language like English is just the way it is. And he referred to the word mankind as well as other words. But he said, you know, changing it's no big deal, so if you want it, go ahead. And there were some who suggested that voting the name to be the Board of Select Women might be interesting to see how that went over. There was another who advocated on behalf of those who actually don't consider themselves male or female. And there was another who declared that her mother, who was very, very proud of having been elected the chairman of the Board of Selectmen, was very proud and would be rolling over in her grave right now. But it seemed that the auditorium knew that a culture shift was in the making. After all, it is the year 2020 and not 1920, when the town charter included the Board of Selectmen. It is 2020, no matter how much there are some of us who yearn for the good old days that never really were. And I was thinking, you know, this is a culture change. This is the establishment of a new normal, a new norm, and it's long overdue. And that is something more than political correctness. It's a kind of liberation. It was a small thing, no big deal. Yes, and it was a huge thing. I looked around the room and I thought, you know, the weight of the future is upon our shoulders more than the weight of the past. And that's what change is, isn't it? It's an accumulation of the small things that add up to a huge thing. I remember A Black woman refused to get up out of her seat and make room for a white person who might come on the bus. So the small things. What are we changing about changing a word? A past that we may not even be aware of is so deeply ingrained in how we think and how we speak. Male-centered language is just one of the aspects, and one day that I hope remnants of patriarchy that infuse our lives without us even being aware of it. Patriarchy is the idea that biological differences between males and females confer power, moral, and legal authority on males. It's this insidious idea that the male is naturally superior to the female. It is the idea that there has to be a natural reason that one has power and one does not. It is, in my mind, one of the most ancient of all lies. You know, when we finally look at it, the idea is ridiculous. This is a fundamental imbalance of power that's perpetrated in religion and law and custom. I think it's an article of the past, a social construct that's been imposed on what really are biological and gender differences. But what does that have to do with who can make a leader? Who has moral authority? What does might have to do with that? In this system, the weight of might makes right. The weight of time makes right. It's a social system, is the definition that you'll see. A social system in which men hold primary power and predominate the roles of political leadership, moral authority, social privilege, and they control property. Men in those societies, especially those that colonized other civilizations that maybe were not patriarchies, they have held the power to control every aspect of the lives of those who are not male. And the consequences for thousands of years have been horrific. It is 2020, and a woman is no less capable of leadership and moral authority than a man. And a woman deserves respect and deserves the power to affect the common good. You know, the world is attempting step by step, incremental step to change things. So what's in a word? Man, woman, what does it matter? It matters the world. Language descends to us from generations and centuries, conveying a shared understanding of the way the world is supposed to work, according to patriarchy. And we have learned at great cost how that shared understanding can go terribly, terribly wrong. What's in a word? What does it matter? It matters the world. It makes us humankind. So I ask you in the days to come, the weeks, the months, the years, I ask you to be careful of the words that you choose. When we raise our voices in democracy, we choose to change things for the better. When we raise our voices, every time we speak, we choose to express who we are and how we want to be in the world. When we raise our voices in a democracy, we use our power. When we raise our voices in a democracy, we share our hope. When we raise our voices in a democracy, we choose the future where there are no slaves, there are no masters, and there are no ancient lives. May it be so. And thank you.